I walked in the door and froze. Something was wrong. The hallway smelled faintly of perfume I didn't recognize, and there was this suitcase sitting in the middle of the floor, like it was waiting for someone. My husband? He was nowhere in sight, but his phone kept buzzing in his jacket pocket. And then I saw her, a shadow slipping out through the side door. My heart raced. Who was she, and why did she vanish like a ghost? I stepped closer, barely daring to breathe, and that's when I noticed it, the suitcase. My hands shook as I reached for it, and suddenly the world flipped upside down. Inside, gold bars, real gold. My husband, the man I thought I knew, what had he gotten himself into? Before we dive deeper, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Click the bell so you never miss these shocking, heart-stopping stories. I want to know where you're watching from, so leave a comment and tell me. It all started earlier that afternoon. I hadn't planned to come home so early, but something in my gut told me to. Maybe it was intuition, or maybe, deep down, I knew. As I walked up the front steps, the house was unusually quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes your stomach twist and your heart beat faster. I opened the door slowly, pretending nothing was wrong, and immediately sensed it. Someone had been there. The faint scent of perfume lingered in the air, mixed with the familiar smell of my husband's cologne. And then I saw it. Shoes by the side of the door that weren't mine, not his. My husband's jacket was draped carelessly over the sofa, his phone buzzing nonstop, but no sign of him. My eyes darted to the hallway, and that's when I froze. The suitcase, standing there as if it belonged to someone else. I wanted to call out, to confront him, but a small voice inside me whispered, "Not yet, not until I understood." I tiptoed closer, curious and terrified all at once, and that's when I noticed it, a faint gleam from inside the suitcase. I leaned closer and my breath caught in my throat. Gold bars, real gold, stacked neatly, cold and heavy. I staggered back a step, gripping the doorframe for balance. My mind raced. How did this happen? Where did it come from? And most importantly, what was my husband involved in? I tried to calm myself. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe he had been saving, investing, something practical. But my intuition told me otherwise. My heart told me the truth before my brain could even process it. He had lied. He had hidden something. Something dangerous. Something bigger than cheating. I moved silently through the house, searching for clues, watching every shadow. That's when I noticed something else. His briefcase, the one he always carried to work, left open on the table. Inside, a crumpled note with a phone number and a name I didn't recognize. I pocketed the note, my mind spinning. Could it be her, the woman I had glimpsed leaving earlier, or someone else entirely? My hands were trembling, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed answers. I needed to know the truth before I acted. As I stood there, staring at the gold bars, a wave of anger and disbelief washed over me. All these years, I had trusted him, shared my life with him, and now this. The betrayal wasn't just about him seeing someone else, it was about secrets, lies, and dangerous choices hidden right under my nose. I thought of all the times he came home late, all the vague excuses, all the little signs I had ignored or brushed off. Now, each memory felt like a puzzle piece snapping into place, and yet one question burned hotter than anything else. How far had he gone? How much danger was I in just by being married to him? I stepped back, took a deep breath, and tried to steady myself. That's when I noticed something else. Another subtle clue, something almost invisible. A receipt tucked behind the suitcase, dated just yesterday. It wasn't for a store I recognized. It wasn't for anything ordinary. It was for something large, expensive, and mysterious. I felt my pulse quicken. My husband's cheating might have been the first shock, but now I realized the gold bars were only the beginning. There was something bigger, something I had no idea about. I glanced around, my eyes lingering on every corner of the house. Something told me he would be back any minute. The question was, what would I do when he came? Would I confront him, or would I wait, watch, and gather the truth piece by piece? And then a small sound made me freeze. The front door handle rattled slightly. My stomach dropped. He was home. My husband, the man I thought I knew, the man I loved and trusted, he was walking into a storm he didn't even know had begun. And somewhere deep inside, I knew one thing for sure. This was just the beginning, the first step into a world filled with secrets, lies, and dangerous truths. The front door clicked shut behind him, and I held my breath. My husband stepped inside, carrying nothing but that familiar, careless smile. But I could see it. His hands were shaking ever so slightly, and the corners of his eyes betrayed fear. He didn't even notice me yet. I wanted to call out, to demand answers, but something in me knew that would ruin the chance to see the truth unfold. I needed him to reveal himself, little by little, and that's when I noticed the first clue, a faint smear of lipstick on the collar of his shirt. My mind raced. She had been here. The perfume, the shoes, the fleeing shadow, all undeniable. Yet something else felt wrong. The gold bars, the mysterious receipt, the note with a name I didn't recognize, it wasn't just infidelity. It was bigger, much bigger. I moved slowly through the living room, pretending to be absorbed in something else while keeping a careful eye on him. He sat down at the sofa and fumbled with his phone, as if checking messages would calm him, but each vibration seemed to make him more anxious. Ladies, have you ever felt a gut instinct you couldn't ignore? That subtle voice telling you something's wrong, even when everything seems normal on the surface? That's exactly what I felt in that moment, and deep down, I knew I had to pay attention to every small detail, every tiny slip, because one mistake could reveal everything. As I wandered closer to the hallway, I noticed another strange detail. His suitcase, yes, the same one with the gold bars, was now slightly moved, almost as if he had touched it without realizing. A small smudge of dirt on the floor, a faint scratch on the wall, and the edges of a crumpled paper peeking out from underneath. I crouched down, careful not to make a sound, and pulled the paper out. It was a receipt. Not just any receipt, but one for a storage locker several blocks away, paid in cash. Why would he rent a locker? What was he hiding there? I turned to look at him casually, pretending nothing had happened. He was scrolling through his phone, muttering under his breath. And then he picked up the suitcase. Not the one I had touched, but another one nearby. He was fumbling with it, confused, as if it wasn't his. I couldn't believe my eyes. The man I had known for decades, the man I trusted, was now unknowingly revealing his own mistake. And I knew one thing for certain: he was in over his head. I tried to calm my racing thoughts, but curiosity pushed me forward. What was he hiding, and where did the gold bars come from? My mind played out scenarios, each one more alarming than the last. Could it be stolen? Could it be part of some criminal activity? Or worse, was it connected to the woman I had just seen? Every step I took, I felt my pulse quicken. I peeked into the kitchen and noticed something small but strange. A wine glass I hadn't seen before, half full with lipstick on the rim. My husband hadn't drunk this. She had. The evidence was piling up, one small clue at a time, and it was impossible to ignore. He walked past me, still fumbling with the suitcase, muttering the name I recognized from the note. I caught fragments of the conversation he was having on his phone, whispered words like "later," "don't worry," and "I'll handle it." My stomach twisted. Was he talking to her or someone else? I couldn't tell. All I knew was that he had made a mistake by leaving traces behind. Each careless move, each overlooked detail was a breadcrumb leading me closer to the truth. I stopped in the hallway, leaning against the wall, and felt a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak. All these years, I had believed in honesty, trust, and love, and now, in a single afternoon, all of it seemed fragile, shattered by secrets I never imagined existed. Have you ever discovered something about someone you love that completely shook your world? That feeling, it's raw, confusing, and impossible to ignore. That's exactly where I was. I watched him finally leave the suitcase where it was and move to the bedroom. I followed silently, careful not to alert him. And then I saw it. Another clue. A small envelope tucked under the pillow with handwriting I didn't recognize. My hands shook as I picked it up. Inside was a folded note, brief but chilling. "Meet me tonight. Don't tell her. Everything will be fine." My heart stopped. Everything would be fine for whom? Not for me, I realized. And that's when I knew this story was far from over, far from simple, and far from what anyone could expect. I stepped back, holding the note tightly, my mind spinning with questions. Who was she? What did the gold mean? And how deep had my husband's deception gone? As I called out from the bedroom, asking if I had seen anything, I forced a calm smile. I was just tidying up, I said. But inside, I was preparing to uncover every hidden truth, one piece at a time. Because I had learned something crucial already. Small clues can lead to massive revelations, and sometimes the truth is far stranger than anyone could imagine. That night, I couldn't sleep. The envelope, the note, and the mysterious gold bars replayed in my mind. Each detail was a thread, and I knew I had to pull carefully, or the whole truth could unravel before I was ready. I returned to the suitcase, now sitting innocently in the hallway. I needed answers. My hands trembled as I lifted one of the gold bars, cold and heavy in my palms. They weren't fake, they were real, and real meant danger. I remembered the storage locker receipt I had found earlier. Could it be linked to this? My mind raced. I grabbed the receipt and called the number printed on it, pretending to be someone else. A voice answered, curt and cautious. "Locker 42?" it said. My pulse quickened. I asked a few questions carefully, dropping hints about ownership. And then a truth hit me harder than any betrayal before. The gold wasn't just stored here for safekeeping. It had been acquired illegally through shady dealings my husband had been part of. I couldn't believe it. The man I married, the man I trusted, was now living a double life. He wasn't just cheating emotionally, he was hiding criminal activity, and somehow I had been blind to it all. I sank to the floor, gripping the gold bar tightly. Anger, disbelief, and fear collided inside me. How could he do this? How could he betray me in so many ways at once? I had raised him, loved him, trusted him, and now everything I believed in seemed like a lie. The reality was chilling. The gold bars were a symbol of his hidden life, a life I had no idea existed. And with each thought, my heart raced faster. Not just because of anger, but because of the danger now surrounding me. If he had done this, if he was involved in illegal dealings, then I was closer to the truth than he wanted me to be, and that made me a target. I couldn't act rashly, so I looked for more clues. I revisited the bedroom, the sofa, and the small envelope from earlier. Inside the note, there were more hints, a few scribbled words about a meeting tonight at 10 and the initials of a man I didn't recognize. It was becoming clearer that my husband had not just one secret, but several, each one more shocking than the last. The gold bars were the only surface. Beneath them lay betrayal, deception, and hidden danger. I felt a wave of dread. He had assumed I would never notice. He had assumed that I would stay blind to the trail of evidence he left, but I had underestimated him. I decided to wait until he went to bed. I had to hear him admit something, even accidentally, and when he finally returned to the bedroom, I followed quietly, careful not to be seen. From the hallway, I overheard fragments of a phone conversation. "Yes, everything is ready," he whispered. "Make sure she doesn't find out. Tonight, it's done." My stomach twisted. Done? Done what? And for a moment, I considered calling the police right then, but something told me I needed more proof, more clarity. I needed him to reveal himself, everything. Ladies, have you ever felt a gut instinct you couldn't ignore? That subtle voice telling you something's wrong, even when everything seems normal on the surface? That's exactly what I felt in that moment, and deep down, I knew I had to pay attention to every small detail, every tiny slip, because one mistake could reveal everything. More than just cheating, my husband had been laundering money, hiding wealth in gold to avoid detection. The woman I had glimpsed earlier was likely involved, perhaps unknowingly, or maybe as a partner. And in that moment, I realized my entire life with him had been a carefully constructed illusion. The man who smiled at me over breakfast, who held my hand in the evenings, had a secret empire hidden right under my nose. I felt a mix of horror and fascination. Horror at the betrayal, fascination at the audacity, and I knew something else. He had no idea I was beginning to understand the depth of it all. I spent the night thinking, planning, piecing together small fragments of his life. Every conversation I had overheard, every note I found, every clue in the house told me the same thing. This wasn't just about cheating, it was about power, greed, and deceit. And as I lay in bed that night, I made a silent vow. I would uncover every secret. I would find out exactly what he had done and what consequences he would face. He had taken for granted that I would never notice, but I was wide awake now. As dawn approached, I stared at the suitcase one last time before hiding the gold bars again. My mind raced with questions. Who was the woman I had seen? How had he acquired the gold? And most importantly, what would happen when I confronted him? I knew one thing. This was only the beginning. Every secret I uncovered brought... The next morning, I decided to act normal. I made coffee, arranged the kitchen, and greeted him with a calm smile. But inside, my mind was racing. Every movement, every word, every glance was a test. I needed him to slip, even just a little, so I could catch the truth. I could feel the tension in the air. He avoided my gaze, fidgeting with the cuff of his shirt. His calm, familiar exterior was cracking. Tiny tremors of fear betrayed him. And I knew at that moment that he had no idea how much I already knew. I started casually, asking about his day and mentioning small, seemingly innocent observations. "I noticed you had a lot of calls yesterday," I said softly. "Who was that?" He stiffened. "Oh, just work," he muttered, but his voice was off, too defensive, too quick. I smiled, letting the words linger. "Work, huh? Funny, I also saw a note in the bedroom, a meeting at 10 last night. Was that work too?" His eyes widened slightly, and I saw it, a flicker of panic. He swallowed hard, clearly caught off guard, but he didn't lie outright. Instead, he mumbled something vague and tried to change the subject. I let him. I wanted him to think I wasn't paying attention. "Ladies, have you ever confronted someone you love, carefully, testing the waters, knowing they might be hiding more than you can imagine? That delicate balance of fear and curiosity, it's nerve-wracking but empowering. I needed to stay calm, patient, and watch closely for every slip, every clue." Later that day, while he was distracted on a call outside, I returned to the hallway and the suitcase. The gold bars were still there, hidden beneath a blanket, but this time I searched more carefully. Underneath one of the bars, I found a small folded envelope tucked into the lining. Inside were photographs, him with the other woman. Not casual pictures, but intimate ones. Dinners, private meetings, moments meant to be secret. My stomach twisted. I had suspected infidelity before, but seeing proof made it real, undeniable. Next, I noticed another receipt partially sticking out from under the envelope. This one was for an expensive jewelry store, dated the previous week, and addressed to her name. He had bought her gifts, expensive, secretive, and deliberate. When he returned inside, I casually placed the envelope back where I found it, as if nothing had happened, but I watched him. He was pacing slightly, muttering under his breath. He glanced at the suitcase and froze, sensing something was off, but he didn't know what I had discovered. I could see the cracks forming. His confidence, built over years of lies and manipulation, was starting to crumble. And I knew one thing: the more careless he became, the closer I was to uncovering everything. I decided to push gently. "You've been hiding a lot from me," I said softly, sitting across from him at the kitchen table. "I wonder, how much is work and how much is something else?" He hesitated, eyes darting around, searching for a safe answer. I've been busy, with things," he stammered. Not a lie, exactly, but not the truth either. I leaned forward slightly, keeping my voice calm but firm. "Things that involve secret meetings, gold bars, or gifts for someone else?" He froze, as if I had spoken aloud the thoughts he had been trying to bury. For a split second, his face betrayed panic, and I knew he was caught in the web of his own making. At that moment, I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and grim satisfaction. The man I had loved, the man I trusted, had built a hidden life filled with lies, cheating, and dangerous secrets. And now, with every small slip, I was starting to see the full picture. Ladies, have you ever felt the thrill of slowly uncovering the truth? The fear mixed with power, knowing that each piece of evidence brings you closer to clarity? That's exactly what I felt, except my thrill was tempered by the knowledge that danger lurked behind every secret he had kept. Just as I thought I had a handle on the situation, I noticed something unusual on his desk, an envelope addressed not to him, but to me, my name neatly written with no return address. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding. Slowly, I opened it. Inside was a single note, brief but chilling. "You think you know the truth, but you don't. Look deeper." My pulse spiked. Someone else was involved. Was it her, an accomplice, or someone who had been watching, waiting, aware of the secrets swirling around my husband? I held the note tightly, my mind racing. My husband glanced over at me, suspicion in his eyes, but he didn't see my expression. I smiled faintly, pretending calm, but inside, I was brimming with determination. I realized one thing: the infidelity, the gold, the secret meetings, they were only the beginning. There was someone else, someone connected to all of this, and I was going to find out who. And as the day faded into night, I prepared myself. The next steps I would take could change everything, for him, for me, and for everyone caught in this web of secrets. The moment the mysterious note landed in my hands, I knew I couldn't wait. Someone was watching, someone knew more than I did, and I had to find out who. I couldn't confront my husband recklessly, not yet, but I could investigate, quietly, carefully. I spent that evening moving silently through the house, looking for anything that might provide more clues. Every drawer, every shelf, every corner suddenly seemed suspicious. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating. It started with the study. I opened the top drawer of his desk, careful not to disturb anything that might alert him. And there it was, a small envelope labeled with the initials of the woman I had seen before. Inside were letters, intimate and personal, detailing plans, rendezvous, and even financial exchanges. I held them in my hands, disbelief washing over me. My husband had been living a double life, hiding both his infidelity and his secrets about the gold. Every word in those letters was proof of lies, betrayal, and manipulation. Next, I found a digital trace, his laptop. Hidden in a password-protected folder were messages, emails, and even photos connecting him to an unknown accomplice. My heart pounded. How deep did this go? Who else was involved? Ladies, have you ever suspected someone close to you was hiding more than you can imagine? That gut feeling that something isn't right and every little clue you find confirms your worst fears? That's exactly what I felt. The truth was unfolding piece by piece, and it was more shocking than anything I had imagined. As I sifted through the papers and emails, a pattern emerged. The gold bars weren't just for personal gain. There were references to business transactions, offshore accounts, and even mentions of people who might be dangerous if exposed. I felt a chill run down my spine. My husband wasn't just cheating, he was involved in something far bigger, something risky, something that could endanger everyone connected to him. Later that evening, I decided to watch him. I kept a casual eye on his movements while pretending to be absorbed in household chores. He paced the living room, making calls in hushed tones, obviously unaware that I had discovered the extent of his secrets. He left a trail of small mistakes, tiny evidence that kept piling up, receipts for purchases I had never seen before. Every small detail confirmed my worst fears. He had underestimated me completely. Then I found it, hidden behind a false panel in the closet, a safe. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were stacks of cash, legal documents with names I didn't recognize, and another set of gold bars. But these weren't the same as the ones I had seen before. These were old, meticulously organized, and tied to companies and accounts my husband had never mentioned. And that's when the final piece hit me. Someone had been helping him all along. There was an accomplice, someone working with him, someone who knew about his affairs, his gold, and everything he had been hiding. I sat on the floor holding a gold bar in each hand, trying to process it all. Betrayal, greed, deception, it all collided inside me. The man I had loved, the man I trusted, had built a hidden life filled with lies, cheating, and dangerous secrets. And now, with every small slip, I was starting to see the full picture. Fear mingled with determination. I had to uncover everything, piece by piece. I had to know the full story,
no matter what it cost me emotionally or physically. Unaware of what I had discovered, he continued his routine. I noticed him glancing at the safe multiple times, muttering names and dates under his breath. He was preparing for something, planning, hiding, and I realized he believed he was untouchable, that his secrets were safe. But he had miscalculated. I had the advantage now, armed with evidence, observation, and a growing understanding of the dangerous life he had built in the shadows. I couldn't help but wonder, who was the accomplice? How long had they been involved? And what would happen when I finally confronted him with everything I had discovered? Ladies, sometimes the people we love the most can be the ones hiding the darkest secrets, and the only way to protect ourselves is to see clearly, observe carefully, and never underestimate what we are capable of discovering. As I hid the documents and gold bars carefully, I made a silent vow. I would uncover the entire truth step by step. There was more than one secret, more than one lie, and I was ready to face it all. And deep down, I knew one thing for certain. The next revelation would be even more shocking. My husband's world and mine were about to collide in ways neither of us could imagine.
The morning sun barely lit the kitchen when I realized I couldn't wait any longer. The gold, the letters, the hidden accomplice, it was all connected to a past I had never known existed. I needed to dig deeper, to trace the roots of his secret life, even if it meant uncovering truths that could shatter everything. I opened his laptop again, this time more deliberately. Passwords I had discovered earlier gave me access to files, emails, and documents he thought were invisible. Each click pulled me closer to a reality I had never imagined. Among the files, I found old bank statements, legal documents, and photographs dating back years. He had been involved in financial dealings, secret transactions, and meetings I never knew about. But what caught my attention most was a name: Margaret. Margaret was not just any name. Emails indicated that she had been a mentor, a partner, and perhaps the person who had taught him the tricks of hiding wealth and navigating shady deals. And then a photograph. My husband, standing in a dimly lit office, shaking hands with a woman who looked powerful, confident, and intimidating. I realized the gravity of it all. His secret life wasn't new. It had roots stretching back over a decade, intertwined with people who had influence, money, and control over his actions. Ladies, imagine discovering that your spouse's hidden life stretches far beyond infidelity. Imagine realizing that the person you trusted has been secretly entangled in a web of power, money, and dangerous connections for years. That's exactly what I felt. Shock, disbelief, and a rising determination to uncover every detail coursed through me. I didn't stop there. I cross-referenced old emails, receipts, and messages. Slowly, a pattern emerged. My husband hadn't just been cheating for a brief moment. His infidelity, the secret gold, and the financial manipulations were all linked to this woman, Margaret, and others like her. One email caught my attention. It detailed a meeting at a luxury hotel, mentioning the transfer of gold bars, cash, and even property. My husband had been living a double life, yes, but it wasn't just about affairs. It was about power, greed, and dangerous alliances. I kept my composure during the day, acting as if nothing had changed. He moved through the house, seemingly unaware that I had uncovered not just his current lies, but the very foundation of his secret life. Yet small tells betrayed him. He checked the safe more often, made subtle phone calls, and left the house at unusual hours. Each action was a breadcrumb, each slip a clue. And I realized something crucial. He was deeply entangled, and one wrong move could bring everything crashing down. Then I discovered the final piece. A series of letters and emails linked him not just to Margaret, but to someone I never expected, a close family friend who had been trusted for years. The realization hit me like a hammer. The person I had always thought of as loyal, kind, and protective had been complicit in my husband's secrets. They had helped cover for him, hide evidence, and maintain the illusion of normalcy. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. Not only had my husband been living a double life, but someone I had trusted had been helping him, keeping me in the dark. I sat down, gripping the documents,
and let the shock sink in. Years of trust, years of loyalty had been manipulated, and yet beneath the anger, a small ember of determination sparked. I wouldn't let them get away with it. Not him, not her, not anyone involved. Ladies, have you ever felt the world shift under your feet because someone you trusted was part of a betrayal? That mix of heartbreak, disbelief, and the fierce need for truth, it's overwhelming. And that's exactly what I felt as the morning turned to afternoon. I decided to test the waters. I sent a subtle message to Margaret's known contacts, pretending to be a curious investor. What I discovered stunned me. She was aware of my husband's affairs, aware of the gold, and even aware of the accomplices. It became clear that my husband had been playing a dangerous game for years, weaving infidelity, illegal deals, and secret alliances into a life I thought I knew. And now I had a window, a chance to catch him unprepared, to uncover everything he had hidden. That evening, I watched him from the doorway, pretending to prepare dinner, while my mind raced with plans. The gold, the infidelity, the accomplices, and now the shocking connection to someone I trusted, it was all coming together. I realized one thing: the next steps I took would be critical. One slip, one wrong move, and everything could be lost. But I was ready. I had discovered the roots of his secret life, and I wasn't going to stop until I uncovered every last hidden truth. And deep inside, I knew the revelations yet to come would shock me and him even more than anything I had uncovered so far. That night, I couldn't sleep. The discoveries of the past days had left me restless, anxious, and alert. Every sound in the house made my heart skip a beat. And I kept thinking about the gold bars. They were not just a symbol of greed, they were a key to something far more dangerous. I returned to the hallway where the storage locker sat quietly under the dim light. The gold bars felt heavier tonight, not physically, but with the weight of secrets they carried. I had to know their true purpose. I went through the storage locker receipt, cross-referencing dates, amounts, and transaction notes. Slowly, the pieces fell into place. The gold wasn't just for personal gain. It had been used as collateral in a series of high-stakes deals, illegal, dangerous, and deeply secretive. And then I found a ledger. Hidden in his desk in a folder labeled Clients and Transfers, it detailed the flow of gold bars, cash, and even other assets. My husband had been running a covert network, trading gold as a front for laundering money. Each transaction was carefully planned, but the risk was immense. I felt my stomach drop. This wasn't just about infidelity or hidden wealth. It was a criminal empire he had built right under my nose. Ladies, imagine discovering that the person you trusted has been hiding not just lies, but a secret criminal operation. Imagine the fear, disbelief, and shock all at once. That's exactly what I felt holding the ledger in my hands. The man I had loved, the life I thought I knew, was gone. The more I examined the ledger, the more I realized the depth of his schemes. There were coded names, secret accounts, and references to people I had never heard of. Each entry pointed to larger networks, more powerful players, and greater risks. Then I saw something that made my blood run cold. A note referencing a delivery scheduled for the following week, involving an amount of gold bars far larger than anything I had seen before. It was clear he was about to make a move that could change everything, and if I didn't act, I could be pulled into it. Unaware of my discoveries, he continued his routine, acting calm, speaking casually, pretending everything was normal. But I could see the tension in his eyes when he glanced at the suitcase. He was preparing, planning, and underestimating me completely. Every mistake he had made in leaving clues, the letters, the photos, the receipts, had given me an advantage, and I realized I had to act carefully. One wrong move, one slip, and the danger could become immediate. Then I found a hidden compartment in his closet, behind an old safe. Inside was a map with locations marked, notes about contacts, and even a coded schedule for the next few weeks. It became clear that the gold bars were not just currency, they were a tool for control, leverage, and possibly blackmail. And the most shocking discovery, one of the marked locations was our own home. My husband had been planning something here, in the place I thought was safe. The realization hit me like ice. The man I had married, the life I had built, had been a carefully constructed illusion. Betrayal, greed, and danger had been hidden in plain sight. Ladies, have you ever felt the world shift under your feet because someone you trusted was part of a betrayal? That mix of heartbreak, disbelief, and the fierce need for truth, it's overwhelming. And that's exactly what I felt as the morning turned to afternoon. I decided to test the waters. I sent a subtle message to Margaret's known contacts, pretending to be a curious investor. What I discovered stunned me. She was aware of my husband's affairs, aware of the gold, and even aware of the accomplices. It became clear that my husband had been playing a dangerous game for years, weaving infidelity, illegal deals, and secret alliances into a life I thought I knew. And now I had a window, a chance to catch him unprepared, to uncover everything he had hidden. That evening, I watched him from the doorway, pretending to prepare dinner, while my mind raced with plans. The gold, the infidelity, the accomplices, and now the shocking connection to someone I trusted, it was all coming together. I realized one thing: the next steps I took would be critical. One slip, one wrong move, and everything could be lost. But I was ready. I had discovered the roots of his secret life, and I wasn't going to stop until I uncovered every last hidden truth. And deep inside, I knew the revelations yet to come would shock me and him even more than anything I had uncovered so far. That night, I couldn't sleep. The discoveries of the past days had left me restless, anxious, and alert. Every sound in the house made my heart skip a beat. And I kept thinking about the gold bars. They were not just a symbol of greed, they were a key to something far more dangerous. I returned to the hallway where the storage locker sat quietly under the dim light. The gold bars felt heavier tonight, not physically, but with the weight of secrets they carried.
The morning light streamed softly through the curtains, but inside, I felt a storm brewing. I had seen the extent of his schemes, the hidden gold, the coded messages, and the accomplices. Now it was time to act, but carefully. Any misstep could alert him, destroy my advantage, or put me in danger. I made coffee, tidied the kitchen, and greeted him with my usual calm smile. He returned it, unaware that I had discovered everything. Every gesture, every word, every sip of coffee was a calculated act. I was testing him, observing him, waiting for the right moment. I started with small questions, feigning curiosity about mundane things. "Did you get any messages last night?" I asked casually, watching his reaction. His eyes flicked to the safe, then quickly away. "Nothing important," he said, voice too steady. I nodded, pretending to accept it, but inside, I was taking notes. Every hesitation, every glance, every twitch, these small observations would become my weapons. Later, I returned to the safe, carefully examining the ledgers and map. I noticed patterns I had missed before: names, dates, and addresses. One address stood out: a small apartment downtown. It wasn't his, but someone had been using it regularly. I decided to investigate discreetly. I drove past the location, parking a block away, observing the comings and goings. Over a few days, I saw him. No, not him, but a woman meeting various men, exchanging small packages. She matched the descriptions from the letters. She was one of the hidden accomplices, likely handling the transfers of gold or messages for my husband. Ladies, imagine realizing that someone you've never noticed before is actually a key player in a secret life you're just starting to uncover. That mix of curiosity, fear, and anticipation, it's electric. Every observation, every small discovery feels like a step closer to truth. Back home, I began crafting my strategy. I didn't confront him directly yet. I needed to ensure I had all the leverage. I organized the evidence, the letters, the photos, the ledger, the map, and the new observations about his accomplice. I left a small clue out for him, intentionally, something he couldn't ignore: the envelope from Part 6, slightly visible, as if I had just discovered it myself. I wanted to see his reaction, to test if he suspected that I had pieced things together. He noticed immediately, glancing at it nervously, but said nothing. That small flicker of fear told me everything. He knew, deep down, that I was no longer the oblivious wife he thought I was. Then, another discovery shifted everything. While reviewing the ledger again, I noticed coded references to a man who seemed neutral, someone neither my husband nor the woman had direct ties to. This man, it appeared, had been inadvertently caught up in their schemes, perhaps as a courier or a middleman. I realized I could use him. If I approached him carefully, I could gain insider information about the accomplices, the transfers, and even the next moves my husband was planning. It was risky, but it was the leverage I needed to level the playing field. At home, he continued with his routine, unaware of my discoveries, but subtle tells kept appearing, checking the safe multiple times, unusually careful phone calls, whispered words to someone I couldn't see. His anxiety was growing, his confidence shrinking. I could see it clearly now. He was losing control, and the more control I gained, the more I realized how much power I had to expose him. Every slick he made, every secret he thought hidden, was now mine to use. Imagine being steps ahead of someone who has manipulated, lied, and betrayed you for years. The tension of waiting for them to make a mistake, the thrill of using their own secrets against them, it's intoxicating. That's exactly where I was. And the question lingering in my mind, the one I wanted to answer more than anything, was how far would he go to protect his secrets before he realized I was in control? By the end of the day, I had a plan forming. I would confront the accomplices carefully, gather the final pieces of evidence, and prepare for the moment when my husband could no longer hide. I knew the next steps would be dangerous, but I also knew that I was ready. The gold, the letters, the map, and the hidden network had revealed enough. It was time to move from observation to action. And somewhere deep inside, I sensed that the next revelation would change everything. My husband, the accomplices, and even my life in ways I could never have imagined. The morning air was crisp, but inside I felt a storm of determination. The gold, the letters, the map, the ledger, it was all in my hands now. I had the advantage, but I had to use it carefully. One misstep could alert my husband or his accomplices, and then everything could be lost. I reminded myself, patience and strategy were my allies. Today, I wasn't just observing, I would confront them, subtly, carefully, and gather evidence that could not be denied. From my earlier observations, I had a clear idea of who was involved: the woman at the apartment downtown, the mysterious intermediaries referenced in the ledger, and even the shadowy figures mentioned in the coded emails. They were all part of the network. I started small. I visited the apartment area, pretending to be a neighbor curious about the building. I observed patterns: who came and went, what packages were exchanged, and when the woman met her contacts. Every detail added to the picture I was building. One evening, as she left the apartment with a small bag, I followed at a safe distance. She stopped near a coffee shop, waiting. I approached casually, as if lost, striking up a conversation. "Hi, excuse me, I think I've seen you around here. Do you know a lot of people in this building?" She asked steadily. "Just a few," she replied cautiously. I smiled, careful not to show fear. "You seem very busy, always running around. Do you deliver things for someone?" Her expression shifted, subtle guilt or fear, I wasn't sure, but I knew I had planted a seed of doubt. I didn't need full confession yet. I just needed to unsettle her, to gauge her reactions. Ladies, imagine the tension of confronting someone who's part of a secret you've been uncovering for weeks. Every word, every glance, every pause could reveal a clue or put you in danger. That's exactly what I felt: heart pounding, nerves sharp, but determination steady. Over the next few days, I carefully documented everything. I photographed interactions, noted times and dates, and recorded small public exchanges. I even managed to capture the woman carrying small packages, which I later traced back to my husband's safe. Every detail, every recorded observation added weight to the evidence. Soon, there would be no way for my husband or his accomplices to deny what I had uncovered. Back home, my husband remained oblivious, moving through his routine, but subtle tells kept appearing: checking the safe multiple times, unusually careful phone calls, whispered words to someone I couldn't see. His anxiety was growing, his confidence shrinking. I could see it clearly now. He was losing control, and the more control I gained, the more I realized how much power I had to expose him. Every slip he made, every secret he thought hidden, was now mine to use. Imagine being steps ahead of someone who has manipulated, lied, and betrayed you for years. The tension of waiting for them to make a mistake, the thrill of using their own secrets against them, it's intoxicating. That's exactly where I was. And the question lingering in my mind, the one I wanted to answer more than anything, was how far would he go to protect his secrets before he realized I was in control? By the end of the day, I had a plan forming. I would confront the accomplices carefully, gather the final pieces of evidence, and prepare for the moment when my husband could no longer hide. I knew the next steps would be dangerous, but I also knew that I was ready. The gold, the letters, the map, and the hidden network had revealed enough. It was time to move from observation to action. And somewhere deep inside, I sensed that the next revelation would change everything. My husband, the accomplices, and even my life in ways I could never have imagined. The morning air was crisp, but inside I felt a storm of determination. The gold, the letters, the map, the ledger, it was all in my hands now. I had the advantage, but I had to use it carefully. One misstep could alert my husband or his accomplices, and then everything could be lost. I reminded myself, patience and strategy were my allies. Today, I wasn't just observing, I would confront them, subtly, carefully, and gather evidence that could not be denied. From my earlier observations, I had a clear idea of who was involved: the woman at the apartment downtown, the mysterious intermediaries referenced in the ledger, and even the shadowy figures mentioned in the coded emails. They were all part of the network. I started small. I visited the apartment area, pretending to be a neighbor curious about the building. I observed patterns: who came and went, what packages were exchanged, and when the woman met her contacts. Every detail added to the picture I was building. One evening, as she left the apartment with a small bag, I followed at a safe distance. She stopped near a coffee shop, waiting. I approached casually, as if lost, striking up a conversation. "Hi, excuse me, I think I've seen you around here. Do you know a lot of people in this building?" She asked subtly. "Just a few," she replied cautiously. I smiled, careful not to show fear. "You seem very busy, always running around. Do you deliver things for someone?" Her expression shifted, subtle guilt or fear, I wasn't sure, but I knew I had planted a seed of doubt. I didn't need full confession yet. I just needed to unsettle her, to gauge her reactions. Ladies, imagine the tension of confronting someone who's part of a secret you've been uncovering for weeks. Every word, every glance, every pause could reveal a clue. The day had arrived. Weeks of careful observation, hidden clues, and small confrontations had led me here, the warehouse on the edge of town, a place I had studied, mapped, and memorized. Today, I would see the full extent of my husband's operations and gather the evidence that could finally expose him. I parked a block away, my heart racing. Every step I took, every sound I heard, reminded me of the stakes. This wasn't just about infidelity or hidden gold anymore. It was about safety, legality, and the truth I was determined to uncover. From my hiding spot, I watched as figures arrived one by one. The woman from the downtown apartment, a few men carrying small packages, and finally, my husband. He moved confidently, as if nothing could touch him. But I saw something he didn't notice. I had eyes on every corner, recording, noting, observing. Every handshake, every exchange, every whispered word became evidence. I activated my phone's discreet camera and began documenting everything. Packages were moved, papers exchanged, and settled transactions made. I followed every action, cross-referencing with the ledger, the map, and the emails I had discovered earlier. The more I observed, the more I realized the scale of what he had built. This wasn't a small operation. It was a network of people, money, and gold bars, all controlled with precision. And yet the cracks were beginning to show. My careful planning had given me the advantage, and I was determined to capitalize on it. Ladies, imagine standing in the shadow of someone you once trusted, watching their secrets unfold, knowing every action they take is a thread you can pull. The fear, the tension, and the adrenaline all mixed together. Yet there's power in knowing the truth. That's exactly what I felt as I observed the warehouse activity. After hours of observation, I decided it was time to act. I approached the woman from downtown, carefully, slowly, and calmly. "Excuse me," I said softly. "I think you know my husband, don't you?" Her face went pale. She glanced at the men inside the warehouse, then back at me, eyes wide. I don't know what you mean," she stammered. I held up my phone showing discreet recordings of her transactions. "I think you do, and I also know about the gold, the packages, and the meetings. You can either cooperate or this all goes public." Her hands trembled. I saw the fear, the same fear I had felt when I first uncovered the letters, photos, and ledger. Slowly, she nodded, realizing I was not bluffing. With her cooperation, I discovered even more. There were names, locations, and transaction details I hadn't yet uncovered. She revealed that my husband had been orchestrating transfers to offshore accounts, involving people I never suspected, and that the gold bars were more valuable and more dangerous than I had realized. Every detail she revealed tightened the net around my husband. He had been overconfident, thinking his careful planning would shield him, but now the layers of his secret life were being peeled back, exposing the man he truly was. Inside the warehouse, my husband moved confidently, unaware of my presence and the unfolding cooperation from his accomplice. Each action he took, each package he moved, only confirmed my advantage. He was playing a dangerous game, but I was finally ahead. Every slip, every moment of carelessness was being captured, and I knew that when the time came, I would confront him not just with accusations alone, but with undeniable evidence. Just as I was preparing to leave with the recordings and information, I noticed a shadow near the loading dock, someone I hadn't seen before. A man, tall, imposing, and clearly aware of the operations inside. Fear shot through me. Was he another accomplice, someone dangerous, or someone sent to protect the network from outsiders like me? I realized I had to move quickly. The element of surprise was mine, but it couldn't last. I decided to retreat, carefully, taking all the recordings and notes with me. My heart pounded, but I knew I had the critical evidence I needed. Ladies, imagine being steps away from uncovering a dangerous secret, realizing that one misstep could put you in harm's way, but also knowing that you hold the power to expose everything. That tension, the fear mixed with determination, is electrifying, and I felt that power coursing through me. I had gathered undeniable proof, seen the inner workings of my husband's schemes, and survived a close encounter with danger. Back home, I carefully reviewed the recordings and notes. Every transaction, every hidden meeting, every accomplice was now documented. The evidence was overwhelming, and I knew that my husband's carefully constructed world was about to crumble. But I also knew one thing. The confrontation wasn't over. The next step would involve unmasking the final layers of his schemes, confronting the accomplices fully, and exposing the entire operation. And deep inside, I felt a mixture of fear and anticipation, because the next revelation and the confrontation it would bring could change everything forever. I waited until evening, when the house was quiet and the day's routine had lulled my husband into a false sense of security. I had all the evidence I needed: recordings from the warehouse, photos of the accomplices, letters, the ledger, and even the notes from the woman downtown who had finally revealed everything. I didn't rush in angrily. I didn't yell or accuse. Instead, I chose a calm, measured approach, the kind that would leave him no escape. Tonight, the truth would be undeniable. He walked into the living room smiling, unaware of the storm waiting for him. I held a folder in my hand, the first piece of evidence, and simply said, "We need to talk." His smile faltered slightly. "About what?" he asked, trying to sound casual. I placed the folder on the table, opened it, and began showing him the photos, the letters, and the recordings. I didn't speak much. I let the evidence do the talking. Ladies, imagine the power of holding the truth in your hands, of revealing secrets someone thought were untouchable. That moment, the look on his face, the sudden realization, is unforgettable, and it's the moment where everything begins to shift. At first, he denied everything. "This isn't what it looks like," he stammered. "I can explain." But I stayed calm, patient, and unwavering.
I pulled out the ledger, the map, and the notes from the accomplice. "Explain this," I said softly. "Explain the meetings, the packages, the gold transfers. Explain the woman downtown and all the emails." His confident facade began to crack. His eyes darted nervously, and I could see him calculating his next move, realizing that there was no way to lie his way out of this. I continued, slowly, deliberately, showing him each piece of evidence, one by one. Each photo, each recording, each letter pushed him closer to the edge. He tried to justify, to twist the truth, but I wasn't giving him any openings. "Do you understand?" I asked quietly. "Everything you've built, every secret, every lie, it's all in front of you, and it's no longer just your secret to hide." He sank into the chair, silent for the first time. The arrogance, the confidence, the control he had wielded for years, all of it crumbling in the face of undeniable truth. Then I added the final piece, the names of the accomplices, the woman downtown, and the shadowy man at the warehouse. I revealed the notes she had given me, detailing not just the operations, but also his plans for the upcoming week, the delivery, the transactions, the risk he had been taking. His face went pale. He realized now that the network he had relied on had been compromised, and worse, that I had turned his allies against him, at least in information and leverage. Ladies, imagine the moment someone realizes their entire life of lies has been exposed. Not just their actions, but the very network they depended on. The fear, the disbelief, the helplessness. It's a powerful moment of revelation, and it's exactly what I felt unfold. I leaned in closer, voice steady but firm. "You've underestimated me for years. You thought I wouldn't see, wouldn't understand, wouldn't act. But I have. And now you have a choice. Face the consequences of your actions or continue hiding and risk losing everything." He didn't speak. His silence was confirmation enough. He had no defenses left, no lies to tell, no networks to protect him. He was trapped, not just by law yet, but by the undeniable power of truth in my hands. That night, as he sat in the living room speechless and defeated, I realized one thing. The confrontation was only the beginning. The next steps would involve unmasking the final layers of his schemes, confronting the accomplices fully, and exposing the entire operation. And deep inside, I knew that the drama, the danger, and the revelations were far from over.
The house was silent that night, but the tension in the air was electric. My husband sat in the living room, still reeling from the confrontation. He was cornered, his facade shattered, but I knew the final revelations had yet to come. I had more evidence, more contacts, more pieces of the puzzle that would leave him exposed entirely. And tonight, I would unravel them. I started with the woman downtown. Using the information she had provided, I traced every contact, every transaction, and every meeting. Slowly, the network began to collapse on paper. One by one, I confronted each accomplice, carefully documenting everything. Some denied involvement, but I had proof. Recordings, messages, receipts, and eyewitness accounts. The web of deception they had helped my husband weave was unraveling faster than he could imagine. Ladies, imagine the power of systematically exposing a web of lies that has controlled your life for years. Each confrontation, each piece of evidence feels like reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. That is exactly the mix of fear, triumph, and determination I felt. As I presented the evidence against each accomplice to him, I saw a shift in his demeanor. Panic replaced arrogance. He realized that the people he had relied on for secrecy were now compromised. He began trying to negotiate, to minimize his exposure, but I remained firm, calm, and unwavering. "Every lie, every scheme, every secret is now laid out," I said. "You can't hide anymore. The choice is yours. Take responsibility or face the consequences fully." He sank into the couch, silent, unable to formulate an excuse that could hold against the mountain of proof I had assembled. Then I revealed the final layer, the offshore accounts and hidden assets he thought were safe. Using documents from the ledger, emails, and banking traces, I exposed the full scope of his financial network. The gold bars, once a symbol of wealth and power, now represented the totality of his deceit. He realized the full extent of exposure, illegal transfers, accomplice networks, and financial manipulation. The realization hit him like a physical blow. I stood before him, voice steady but firm. You underestimated me. You thought I wouldn't see, wouldn't understand, or wouldn't act. But I have. And now you must face the truth, not just for me, but for yourself and everyone you involved in this web of deceit. The fear in his eyes was unmistakable. For the first time in years, he was completely powerless, and I could feel the weight of justice settling in my hands. Not legal justice yet, but the power of undeniable truth. Ladies, imagine holding someone accountable after years of manipulation, betrayal, and deception. The satisfaction, the relief, and the lingering fear, it's a powerful mix. And that is exactly what I experienced as I confronted him with the totality of his actions. With the accomplices exposed, the transactions traced, and the evidence undeniable, my husband had no way to escape the consequences of his choices. Each confession, each recorded conversation, and each documented transaction left him with fewer options. I realized that the next steps would determine how fully he faced accountability and whether the remaining threads of his secret life could be completely dismantled. As the night drew on, I watched him struggle with the truth, powerless against the evidence laid before him. The final layers of deceit had been uncovered, and the consequences were unavoidable. But I also knew that the climax of this confrontation, the ultimate reckoning where every secret, every accomplice, and every scheme would be fully revealed, was still ahead. The next part would push the drama and suspense to their peak. The morning air felt heavier than usual. I had spent days organizing evidence, speaking with the accomplices, and planning the final confrontation. Today, everything would come to light. The gold, the secret accounts, the network of lies, every piece of his hidden life would be revealed, and he could no longer escape. I prepared myself carefully. I needed him to see the truth, not just feel it, but understand that nothing was left hidden. Every detail had to be undeniable. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a small conference room downtown. I invited the accomplices discreetly, along with a legal advisor I had quietly consulted. I needed witnesses, people who could confirm the evidence, and someone to ensure accountability. He arrived, confident at first, unaware that this was not a casual discussion. He looked around, saw familiar faces, and tried to mask his growing anxiety. But every glance, every subtle reaction told me he knew something was off. I began calmly, laying out the story piece by piece. First, the letters, photographs, and recordings showing his infidelity. Then, the accomplices' testimonies confirming his manipulations, the gold transfers and secret transactions. Finally, the ledger and offshore accounts that revealed the full scope of his schemes. Every piece of evidence hit him like a wave. He went from shock to panic to silence. His confident demeanor was gone, replaced with fear and helplessness. He realized now that every secret he had counted on was exposed. Ladies, imagine orchestrating a confrontation where someone who deceived you for years is forced to face undeniable proof. The satisfaction, the fear, and the emotional release, it's a powerful mix. And that is exactly what I experienced as I confronted him with the totality of his actions. With the accomplices exposed, the transactions traced, and the evidence undeniable, my husband had no way to escape the consequences of his choices. Each confession, each recorded conversation, and each documented transaction left him with fewer options. I realized that the next steps would determine how fully he faced accountability and whether the remaining threads of his secret life could be completely dismantled. As the night drew on, I watched him struggle with the truth, powerless against the evidence laid before him. The final layers of deceit had been uncovered, and the consequences were unavoidable. But I also knew that the climax of this confrontation, the ultimate reckoning where every secret, every accomplice, and every scheme would be fully revealed, was still ahead. The next part would push the drama and suspense to their peak. The morning air felt heavier than usual. I had spent days organizing evidence, speaking with the accomplices, and planning the final confrontation. Today, everything would come to light. The gold, the secret accounts, the network of lies, every piece of his hidden life would be revealed, and he could no longer escape. I prepared myself carefully. I needed him to see the truth, not just feel it, but understand that nothing was left hidden. Every detail had to be undeniable. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a small conference room downtown. I invited the accomplices discreetly, along with a legal advisor I had quietly consulted. I needed witnesses, people who could confirm the evidence, and someone to ensure accountability. He arrived, confident at first, unaware that this was not a casual discussion. He looked around, saw familiar faces, and tried to mask his growing anxiety. But every glance, every subtle reaction told me he knew something was off. I began calmly, laying out the story piece by piece. First, the letters, photographs, and recordings showing his infidelity. Then, the accomplices' testimonies confirming his manipulations, the gold transfers and secret transactions. Finally, the ledger and offshore accounts that revealed the full scope of his schemes. Every piece of evidence hit him like a wave. He went from shock to panic to silence. His confident demeanor was gone, replaced with fear and helplessness. He realized now that every secret he had counted on was exposed. Ladies, imagine orchestrating a confrontation where someone who deceived you for years is forced to face undeniable proof. The satisfaction, the fear, and the emotional release, it's a powerful mix. And that is exactly what I experienced as I confronted him with the totality of his actions. With the accomplices exposed, the transactions traced, and the evidence undeniable, my husband had no way to escape the consequences of his choices. Each confession, each recorded conversation, and each documented transaction left him with fewer options. I realized that the next steps would determine how fully he faced accountability and whether the remaining threads of his secret life could be completely dismantled. As the night drew on, I watched him struggle with the truth, powerless against the evidence laid before him. The final layers of deceit had been uncovered, and the consequences were unavoidable. But I also knew that the climax of this confrontation, the ultimate reckoning where every secret, every accomplice, and every scheme would be fully revealed, was still ahead. The next part would push the drama and suspense to their peak. The morning air felt heavier than usual. I had spent days organizing evidence, speaking with the accomplices, and planning the final confrontation. Today, everything would come to light. The gold, the secret accounts, the network of lies, every piece of his hidden life would be revealed, and he could no longer escape. I prepared myself carefully. I needed him to see the truth, not just feel it, but understand that nothing was left hidden. Every detail had to be undeniable. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a small conference room downtown. I invited the accomplices discreetly, along with a legal advisor I had quietly consulted. I needed witnesses, people who could confirm the evidence, and someone to ensure accountability. He arrived, confident at first, unaware that this was not a casual discussion. He looked around, saw familiar faces, and tried to mask his growing anxiety. But every glance, every subtle reaction told me he knew something was off. I began calmly, laying out the story piece by piece. First, the letters, photographs, and recordings showing his infidelity. Then, the accomplices' testimonies confirming his manipulations, the gold transfers and secret transactions. The morning after the ultimate confrontation, the weight of truth hung heavily in the air. My husband sat in stunned silence, realizing that the consequences of his actions were unavoidable. The network of lies, the gold bars, the accomplices, and his secret transactions, all of it had been exposed, and there was no turning back. I felt a mix of relief, triumph, and lingering caution. The storm wasn't over, but I had taken control. Now the final outcomes would unfold, and justice, in all its forms, would begin. Within hours, legal authorities and financial investigators began examining the evidence I had collected. The offshore accounts, the gold transactions, and the accomplices' testimonies left no room for escape. He was forced to confront the full scope of his misdeeds: illicit transfers, manipulation, hidden accomplices, and attempts to hide wealth. Every denial, every justification fell flat against the mountain of proof. For the first time, he understood that his actions had consequences he could not avoid. The fear in his eyes was undeniable. The arrogance, the control, and the deceit he had wielded for years were gone, replaced by a helpless realization that his world was unraveling. Meanwhile, the accomplices, who had been a key part of his network, were exposed publicly. Some cooperated fully, providing crucial details that confirmed the evidence. Others attempted to deny involvement, but the recordings, photographs, and documents left no room for doubt. Each accomplice faced their own accountability, whether through legal action, social consequences, or personal shame. The web of secrecy they had helped maintain was dismantled completely. Ladies, imagine seeing someone who deceived you for years, not just confronted, but fully exposed alongside everyone who aided them. The satisfaction is immense, but it comes with a mix of reflection, justice, and emotional closure. That is exactly what I experienced as the final pieces of the puzzle fell into place. I sat quietly, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. Weeks of observation, planning, and strategic action had led to this moment. I had uncovered the hidden truths, outsmarted my husband, exposed the accomplices, and ensured that accountability would follow. The betrayal, the fear, and the danger had tested me in ways I never imagined, but they had also revealed my own strength. I realized that empowerment comes not from vengeance, but from understanding, patience, and courage to act decisively. Just when I thought the story had reached its peak, another revelation surfaced. One of the accomplices had hidden documents suggesting that the Gold Network had connections to higher-level, dangerous players beyond my husband. It was a reminder that while I had dismantled his immediate world, there were larger forces at play, forces I hadn't considered before. The stakes were still high, but I had already proven that no secret could survive exposure when truth was pursued relentlessly. My husband finally spoke, voice low and defeated. I didn't think anyone could see through it all. I never expected this." I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I let the silence speak. The realization, the shame, and the acknowledgement of consequences hung in the air. He had been cornered, fully aware that the life he had built on deception was gone. Ladies, imagine the power of seeing the truth fully revealed, watching someone who manipulated and betrayed face accountability. The mix of relief, empowerment, and awe is overwhelming, and it's a reminder that truth, patience, and courage can overcome even the most carefully hidden lies. By evening, the final pieces of accountability were in place. The legal process would follow, the accomplices had been exposed, and my husband's schemes were fully dismantled. The gold bars, once a symbol of hidden wealth and deceit, now represented the unraveling of secrets and the triumph of truth. I stood in the quiet of our home, reflecting on the journey. The fear, suspense, and danger had tested me, but I had emerged not just victorious, but empowered. Every secret revealed, every accomplice confronted, and every lie exposed had restored my control, my peace, and my sense of justice. And as the night fell, I realized that while the consequences were severe, the ultimate victory was mine. The victory of truth over deception, courage over fear, and justice over secrecy. The house was finally quiet. The storm of deception, betrayal, and confrontation had passed, leaving behind an almost surreal calm. My husband's schemes were fully exposed, the accomplices held accountable, and the gold bars no longer represented power or secrecy. They were now symbols of a truth revealed. I sat by the window, sipping my tea, reflecting on the weeks that had passed. The fear, suspense, and danger had been intense, but the journey had also been revealing, not just about him, but about myself. The following days were filled with legal proceedings, interviews, and quiet resolutions. My husband faced the consequences of his actions, financial losses, public exposure, and legal scrutiny. The accomplices had been dealt with according to their involvement. Yet, amid the chaos, I began to notice the subtle return of normalcy. Small routines, morning coffee, quiet walks, conversations with friends felt almost sacred. Life was reclaiming itself, slowly but surely, from the shadows of lies and betrayal. Ladies, imagine the weight lifted after discovering the truth and seeing justice unfold. The relief, mixed with the memories of betrayal and suspense, creates a powerful sense of emotional closure. And it's a reminder that truth, patience, and courage can overcome even the most carefully hidden lies. Reflecting on everything, I realized the journey taught me more than just uncovering deceit. It taught me patience, observation, courage, and the power of standing firm in the face of betrayal. I learned that deception can hide in the smallest corners of life, that people we trust may sometimes surprise us, and that uncovering truth requires both strategy and emotional resilience. Most importantly, I discovered my own strength, a quiet, determined strength that had carried me through fear, danger, and uncertainty. Even as the dust settled, one mystery lingered. The accomplice documents hinted at connections to forces beyond my husband's immediate network, shadowy players, larger schemes, and hidden layers I hadn't fully explored. It was a reminder that while one chapter ends, life can hold surprises and unanswered questions. The story may have concluded for now, but curiosity and vigilance are lifelong companions. I began rebuilding my life with clarity and purpose. No longer overshadowed by deception, I found joy in simple routines, cherished moments with friends, and the satisfaction of knowing that justice had been served. The fear and suspense were replaced by empowerment, and the betrayal that once weighed heavily became a catalyst for personal growth. I realized that even in the face of shocking truths, resilience, patience, and courage could restore balance and peace. Ladies, think about the power of uncovering truth, facing betrayal, and emerging stronger. Life may throw deception, secrets, or unexpected twists our way, but with courage and clarity, we can reclaim control and find peace. And the lingering question remains: what other hidden truths might life hold? What secrets are waiting to be uncovered, and how will we face them when they appear? As I closed the door on that chapter of my life, I felt a profound sense of closure. The husband who once controlled, manipulated, and deceived was now fully exposed, and the accomplices had faced the consequences of their choices. Yet the story left me with lessons, reflections, and a quiet sense of vigilance. Life continues, and while the past cannot be changed, the strength, courage, and clarity gained from the experience will guide me forever. I realized that even after betrayal, even after suspense and danger, truth has a way of revealing itself, and those who face it with courage can find both justice and peace.